on. I was born in Marshalltown, Iowa, August 12, 1923. I was born in town. We lived 7 blocks from where I was born, and I've lived within 3 miles of Marshalltown all my life. And I'll be buried at Rose Hill Memorial Cemetery at the south edge of Marshalltown. When I was 4 years old, we moved to a farm north of Marshalltown, 53 acres, and my dad worked for the telephone company, Northwestern Bell. Well, it was Marshall Telephone Company, and then went to Northwestern Bell for 28 years, and he decided to run a dairy. That wasn't my idea, but it was his idea. And we had no electricity. We did not have electricity until I was in Germany in 1944. So we had ice boxes. We had a pump jack with a gasoline motor on it. Had to milk the cows by hand, 18 cows by hand. And we sold raw milk, now get this, raw bottled milk to 4 grocery stores at the north edge of Marshalltown. Can you believe selling raw milk at that? Nowadays, in fact, that's why Dad got out of the dairy business. They got so strict that you pretty had to pasteurize it or you was out of business. And so that's why when I came back from the service, the dairy was gone. So my brother and I and a hired man worked for the farm because Dad worked full time for the telephone company. And, we knew what work was. Milking cows, bottling milk, and all that stuff, delivering milk. And when I graduated, I went to grade school for 8 years, walked a mile and a quarter to school, uphill both ways, and through snowdrift 10 feet high. But it was interesting that when I started the first grade, I had just turned 5 years old on August 12th and started the first week of September. So here I was, just barely 5 years old in the first grade. None of this kindergarten stuff where you took a nap for 2 hours or something, We was in the room with about 18 other kids from first grade to 8th grade. And it was interesting, but I loved it. I love math. I've loved math all my life. And so when I graduated from high school from Marshalltown in 1941, the war hadn't started. They hadn't dropped the bomb yet. But when they dropped the bomb in December 7th of 41, in 42 they started drafting people. And so Dad went to the draft board and he said, I need help on the farm because everybody else was going to service. Couldn't get any help. They said, all right, we'll defer him. So I was deferred until 1943 when my brother graduated. And the draft board called Dad and said, we want to see the 2 boys Monday morning at 9 o'clock. Well, we knew what they was going to say. We'll defer one of you, but not both of you. So as I was the oldest, I said, I will go. So on September 20th, 1943, I went to Camp Dodge, Iowa, and took the physical, passed it with flying colors, except for second-degree flat feet. And that's why I wound up in the infantry. They figured if he's got flat feet, he can't hurt him anymore, And so that's why I wound up in the infantry. I don't know why I did, but that's my thought. And so then I went overseas, but I went to service on September 20th and went to Camp Roberts, California. That's just about as far away from Marshalltown as you can get without going across seas. I was homesick, and I went with some people I knew from State Center, Ed Eckhart Enterprises, and Ed and I slept in the same barracks. We took our firing. We were both experts with the M1, and we went from Camp Roberts, and when we graduated from Camp Roberts, we knew we were going Pacific. If you're on the West Coast, that's where you're going to go. Well, we got our orders and said, go to Fort Meade, Maryland. We go, why are we going to Fort Meade if we're going to the Pacific? That's going the wrong way. So we found out later that we weren't going to the Pacific, we was going to Europe. And that's where I went. And I trained with all these people We went to Fort Meade, then to Camp Shanks, New York, a port of embarkation. No, most people never heard of Camp Shanks, New York. And I went there with all the group I trained with. And while there, I got the measles. I had the measles about 6 times, but that was the first time I'd had the measles. And they put me, during Easter, just about Easter time, they put me in the hospital. And I couldn't get out. Well, while I was in the hospital, they sent the whole bunch I trained with overseas. So when I come out, I went to replacement depot and didn't know one person. Well, some fella from Minneapolis, Tom Kenning, he was about 8 years older than I was and had a child, so he took me under his wing so I wouldn't get in trouble when I went to New York on pass. And we were going to go to a Yankees game. Had tickets. We were going, New York just bent over backwards to anybody who was in the service. That's the first day they'd had a rain out in 20 years. So we never did get to see the Yankees play. And I was upset about that because I wanted to see the Yankees. So when you was in the replacement depot, all you had to do was be where they could get a hold of you if they needed you. So Tom got me a job in the PX, working from 11 till 3 or something at 75 cents an hour. So it was practically nothing, but it gave you something to do. All you had to do was sign out and where you were going and sign in when you came back. Well, on Mother's Day, May 12, 1944, my number came up. And Mother's Day, 1944, I got on a boat with 3,500 other people and didn't know one soul. Now my wife says, "What's so bad about that?" I said, "It's terrible. Because if you're with a bunch of people you know, it's fun and games. If you're on there and you don't know anybody, it's an altogether different story." And so I went to Liverpool. It took us 14 days to cross the Atlantic because we were in a convoy with a bunch of tankers, and you could only go as fast as the tankers could go because you couldn't run off and leave them or they'd be sunk immediately. So we got to Liverpool. I went to southern England about May 26th. Got down to southern England and we were restricted to our tent. You can't go on pass anymore. And these guys have been going to pass every night, and they said, how come? Well, we don't know, but you're restricted. You can't go in. We found out it was because of D-Day coming up June 6th. They didn't want some blabbermouth that thought he knew what was going on to go in and mention something and defeat the process. So they didn't let us go in. So I was there until June 12th. And I didn't get to go in on D-Day. Somebody said, "Well, you're sorry you didn't get to go in on D-Day?" I said, "No. I was very happy to go in 6 days later." So I went in there, and I'd never heard of the 4th Infantry Division. They took us in the afternoon, late in the afternoon. They took us in 3 or 4 in a group, and the guy would take you to where you're supposed to go. So I got in the hole with this guy. I said, "What am I in?" "You're in the F Company of the 12th Regiment of the 4th Infantry Division." And I served in F Company my whole career. I was in F Company when I was discharged in October of 45. So when I wound up in the Normandy, we started off to take Cherbourg, which is a big port city. They wanted to take this big port city. So about 2.5 weeks of fighting, we finally took Cherbourg. And our job after we got to Cherbourg was to guard the Pasteur Hospital because that's where German and American wounded were hospitalized. They wanted to keep the Americans safe and the Germans there. They didn't want them coming out. So that was our job. I thought, this is going to be great. We'll spend the rest of the war right here at this hospital. That lasted 4 days. And then they said back to Normandy. So back to Normandy we went. And on July 7th, we were in the hedgerows. Of course, a lot of you don't know what a hedgerow is, but they were bad. They were big mounds of dirt, and they surrounded the fields, and they had trees and stuff on top, and it was kind of like a fence. Well, that was fine for the cows, because they couldn't get through it. And we had trouble getting through it, but if we went through it and the Germans were on the other side, they'd wait till you got out in the middle of the field, and then they'd start killing you. Now, I was carrying a Browning automatic rifle. Now, most of you don't know what a Browning automatic is, but it'll shoot lead like a machine gun. And the Germans knew that, and whenever they saw somebody carrying one of those. That's the first guy they wanted to get out of commission. And they got me out of commission. They shot me through the shoulder. It didn't hurt, it just felt like somebody hit me over the shoulder with a club. It just and knocked me down. And so then I got out of there, and the bullet went in my shoulder and come out right here. And I went to England. I was in England till, I think it was in September 4th when I got back to the front. But I was in this hospital, and these doctors kept coming around, and of course it came out here, and it was healed, and they would keep digging at it so it healed from the inside out, not heal up and then get the infection. I thought they were crazy, because just when it felt good, they'd start digging again. Well, about a week or two before I went back to front, another doctor came in with the regular doctor, and he said, I'm going to run a brush over your arm, and you tell me if you can feel it. I said, okay. He said, turn your head. So I turned my head. He ran the brush, and I said, yeah, feel that. You feel that? Yep. Feel that? Yep. Feel that? No, didn't feel a thing. He said, you shouldn't have. I wasn't even touching you. What they thought, where that bullet went in and where it come out, how it missed my main nerve going to my arm, they didn't know. They could not figure it. It had to be a miracle that where it went in. And that's how they tested me. They thought I was saying, yeah, I can feel it when I couldn't. So I went back to the front, September 4th. We were in the Hurtgen Forest. Most of you never heard of the Hurtgen Forest, but it was one of the bloodiest battles in the war. And in my estimation, it was worse than the Battle of Bulge. Because the trees, it was a thick forest, and the artillery would land in the trees and scatter shrapnel all over. So just being in a hole didn't protect you at all. If you're in a hole, you could get killed right in your hole. I think it's going to start raining, folks. I'm going to stay here until I get grounded. Maybe I'll be the only one here. But anyway, that's what happened there. So then I was wounded there, a bullet in the chest in the Hurtgen Forest, November 30th. Somebody said, how can you remember all these dates? I said, if you can't remember the dates you're wounded, there's something wrong with you. I was wounded November 30th. I feel guilty up here under this. So, where was I at? So when I got bullet in the chest, and it hit my chest right here. I got a sunken hole right there. But it hit a tree first and ricocheted sideways into my chest. And the medic come up and he says, cough. I coughed and no blood. He says, thank God it's not in your lungs. It didn't go through, so it's still in there. But he said, if you don't cough blood, you're probably all right. If you can get out of here before you get killed. And that was the problem when you got wounded, was to get out of there before you really got killed. Cause that you think $1 million wound, maybe you've heard of the $1 million wound. Well, I didn't know whether it was $1 million, but I wanted out of there. So we got out of there and went to a tent hospital. And I went to Paris and they took the bullet out. Then I went to a tent hospital. And I thought we were helping the nurses put up Christmas decorations. We thought, boy, this is going to be lovely. We're going to be in Christmas in a hospital. Wonderful. Well, the bulge came December 16th. So December 24th, 2 doctors came in and said, every man that could stand at the foot of your bed. Well, I could stand up, nothing wrong with me. And he said, what's wrong? Oh, you got a wound in the chest. How's it doing? I said, doing fine, but I still got my stitches. He took his scissors and took the stitches out, and you can go back to the front. So the day before Christmas, on my wife's birthday, well, she wasn't my wife then, I went back to Belgium, Luxembourg, right into the Battle of the Bulge. And it was a bad, talk about bad Christmases. That was a bad Christmas. And then I was wounded again. I wounded 3 times. And the 3rd time was in the Battle of Bulge by our own artillery. And we always felt like, when their artillery come in, it was terrible. Well, if you're under your own artillery, You know how bad it is, because they were really pouring it on us. We were taking a town, and the people going in another road said, pull back, there's a tank firing on us, shell that intersection. Well, they shelled the whole town, and our radio man had been wounded. We did not know sense enough to pull back, so the shell came through the roof of the house, hit a bunch of us, hit me in the back, and I have a belt here with a hole in it. That's my wet belt. It went through an army overcoat, field jacket, wet belt, this belt, and I still have the shrapnel here. And went in about an inch, half or an inch into my back beside my spine. Didn't hit anything serious. If that would have been 2 inches higher, or 2 inches lower, and hit cloth, it wouldn't even slow down. It had to hit where it hit, or I wouldn't be here today. Now you say, is that luck? I don't know. If it was, I had a lot of it. I've had a lot of it. I've had shells land at the end of my hole. It was a dead. If it went off, it'd kill all 4 of us in the hole. So, you know, you can't... Is it luck or something else? I think it's something else. And I've tried to live my life to take credit for being what you call lucky. I've had a good life. We've been married 68 years. It'll be 69 July 26th. We had 3 children, 4 grandchildren, and 6 great-grandchildren. We had our second great-granddaughter graduate from Colo Nesco a week ago. She's 18 and her sister graduated. She's 20. Great-grandkids, not grandkids, great-grandkids, 20 and 18. Then we have 2 sets of twin boys, 10 and 8. So we have a lot of, but none of them are Browns. They're Bakers. Our daughter married Terrell Baker, so they're Bakers, not Browns. So my well, you might say, name will be gone. But my brother has children that they're named Brown, and they have a lot of children. So I guess our family will carry on without me, and as they have for many years. Maybe have you seen this helmet? You haven't seen this helmet. You talk about close calls. This is the helmet I had on in the Battle of Bulge. The bullet went in here and came out back here. It cut the strap on my helmet liner, and that's close. When it cuts the strap, the helmet liner strap lays right on your head. This doesn't lay on your head. The liner lays on your head. It cut the strap, and my head watered. It did not bleed. So I got no Purple Heart for that one. I feel like I got cheated. But maybe that was close enough. Are you getting wet, or are you surviving? Well, you're surviving. You're still here. I guess. And Ed Eckhart and I went to the service the same day. We went to basic the same day. We went overseas, not together. I was in F Company, and he was in the company right beside me in G Company. And we never saw each other till the war was over, and we were on our way home. In Germany, we were in Bamberg, Germany, and I walked out. I saw Ed playing ball, and I walked up and I said, "Hi, Ed." He turned around, and I thought he was going to faint, because he heard some Sergeant Brown had been killed in F Company, and he was sure it was me. It wasn't me, and he was so shocked. So we came home together. We came back to Marshalltown together. He went to State Center. I went to Marshalltown. We went back to Camp Butner, North Carolina, because the war wasn't over yet. It was over in Europe, May 8th, but it wasn't over in Japan. So the 4th Division came home as a unit, and it was going to be trained to help invade Japan. We didn't like that. We said, we won the war in Europe, let somebody else fight the war in Japan. Well, that wasn't their idea of the thing, so we were headed for Japan. While I was home on my 30 days, July 26th we got married. I was 22 on August 12th. We were going to Minneapolis to visit my uncle. Rode in our 31 Model A into Albert Lee, Minnesota. And the church bells and fire sirens, what's going on? Is there big fires in Mars? No, didn't you hear? Japan surrendered. Talk about a happy day. That was one of the happiest days of my life right there, because I just got married, turned 22, and, you know, war was over. So we went back to Camp Butler, and I was discharged October 21st, along with Ed Eckhart. Our discharges say exactly the same dates. September 20th, October 21st, 45. He's gone now. When I retired, I worked on the farm for 20 years, then I hurt my back and had to go to town, and I tried to get a job. Fishers, Coopers, Lennox, nobody'd hire me because I had a back operation. They said, what can you do? And I said, I don't know. But the waterworks were hiring cripples. Well, they weren't cripples, but they were people that could show up on time. That's what you had to do, is 3 shifts, continuous. It's like a police force, 24 hours a day. So I signed up for the waterworks and worked there 22 and a half years. And also at the same time, I worked at McCubbin Seed Farm in Green Mountain as a bookkeeper for 19 and a half years at the same time. That's how we can go to Mesa, Arizona for the winter. We wouldn't have worked at Mesa if I'd just worked for the waterworks. Because that would have been, they weren't paying like they are now, I guarantee you. So it was, it was a great life. And then when I retired, I went to Mesa for the winter because our daughter lives down there. One of our daughters, our little baby, she's 62. She lives down right near Mesa. And we got down there, and about, that was in 1990, December 1st of 90, we parked at Mesa Regal, where Ron and I are at, and we've been there 23 years, in the same park. We got down there, and about, I think it was February of 91, the president of the 4th Division Association, which is a association of anybody that ever served in the 4th Division, no matter what war, didn't care what war you were in, it was a 4th Division Association. He said, how would you like to be treasurer? Well, I said, well, I don't know. That's a pretty big job. He said, just for a couple of years till we get a Vietnam veteran. I resigned in Branson in 2011. 20 years later. But I love figures. And everybody said, well, it was a lot of work. It wasn't work. Because I love it. And if you love something you're doing, it's not work. And how anybody could work in a factory or something and hate every day they went to work, I can't imagine. Because I love both of my jobs. I was a lab technician at the waterworks, bookkeeper at McCubbin Seed, national treasurer of the 4th Division, and Ed Eckhart was my assistant treasurer for years before he died. So I've had a good life, and I don't know, I'm a World War II veteran. I don't know how many World War II veterans do we have here? I don't see too many. As they say, we're a dying breed, and we are. There are more Vietnam veterans dying now than there are World War II. You know why? Because we're already gone. Most of us are already gone. So, and Vietnam veterans are in their 60s and 70s, and they're having a lot of trouble with Agent Orange and all that other stuff. And so it's a pleasure to be here. And I have relations in Grinnell, some Frenches, Chedisters, and my grandpa and grandma are buried here in this cemetery. Arthur Albert Lake and his wife are buried here in this cemetery. My middle name is Arthur, my brother's name was Albert, and that's where we got our middle names, Arthur Albert. And mother named us Wayne and Lyle because she hated anybody that had nicknames. William was Bill, and James was Jim, and Robert was Bob. And she said, Wayne and Lyle, they can't, no nickname for that. So what do you think they called us? Brownie. Because that was our last name, and so they just called, and that's what they called Dad at the telephone company, was Brownie. Go in there and talk to, where's Ray? Ray who? Oh, Brownie. Oh, yeah, he's over there. They knew who Brownie was, but there was 3 or 4 Rays that worked there, so they didn't know which one they were talking about. When they said Brownie, they knew. So I guess that's all I can tell you. I'm happy to be here, and I'm glad Ron told me to come. And I was upset when he called me. He said, "What do you want me to say when I introduce you?" "Introduce me for what?" "To be speaker at the cemetery in Grinnell." I said, "Ron, I didn't sign up for that." He said, "Well, you're going to be it, so I'm it." And I have a poem I want to read. Maybe you've heard this poem. We say it all the time down in Arizona. He was getting old and paunchy, and his hair was falling fast, and he sat around the Legion, telling stories of the past, of a war that he once fought in, and the deeds that he had done. In his exploits with his buddies, they were heroes, every one. And though sometimes to his neighbors, his tales became a joke, all his buddies listened quietly, for they knew whereof he spoke. But we hear his tales no longer, for old Joe has passed away, and the world's a little poorer, for a soldier died today. He won't be mourned by many, just his children and his wife, for he lived an ordinary, very quiet sort of life. He held a job and raised his family, going quietly on his way, and the world won't note his passing, though a soldier died today. When politicians leave this earth, their bodies lie in state, while thousands note their passing and proclaim that they were great. Papers tell of their life stories from the time that they were young, but the passing of a soldier goes unnoticed and unsung. Is the greatest contribution to the welfare of our land some jerk who breaks his promise and cons his fellow man? Or the ordinary fellow who in times of war and strife goes off to serve his country and offers up his life? The politician's stipend and the style in which he lives are often disproportionate to the service that he gives, while the ordinary soldier who offers up his all is paid off with a medal, or perhaps a pension small. It is not the politicians for their compromise employees who won for us the freedom that our country now enjoys. Should you find yourself in danger with your enemy's hand, you really want some cop-out with his ever-wobbling stand, or would you want a soldier, his home, his country, his kin, just a common soldier who would fight until the end? He was just a common soldier, and his ranks are growing thin. But his presence should remind us we may need his likes again. For when countries are in conflict, we find the soldier's part is to clean up all the troubles that the politicians start. If we cannot do him honor while he's here to hear the praise, then at least let's give him homage at the ending of his days. Perhaps just a simple headline in the paper that might say, "Our country is in mourning, for a soldier died today." I'll close with that. I think that's a wonderful poem, and we are painting fast, and we're losing our hair too. So I guess that's all I can say. Thank you so much.